All right, we are live. So welcome back to Dapp University. So today we got a lot to talk about in our stream. Okay, the first thing that we want to cover is a really important lesson that pretty much everybody needs to understand in crypto. Okay, something I really try to focus a lot on this channel, but it's a weeks like this where sometimes you don't learn this lesson until you have to learn it the hard way. So we're going to look at that. We're going to look at a lot of other news updates that have happened in the space since yesterday. Check on the crypto markets. We got a little bit of green on the charts today. We'll kind of explore what's going on there. A lot of people hoping for a crypto bottom soon. It's been a pretty nasty week. We're going to answer some of your questions and a whole lot more. So if you're new around here, hey, I'm Gregory, and on this channel, I turn you into a blockchain master. So if that's something that you're interested in, then smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to this channel. And if you want to learn how to master blockchain step-by-step start to finish, then definitely head on over to dappuniversity.com/bootcamp to get started today. Okay, so we got people jumping in the chat here. We've got Culture Highs, Technically, Automatic Beats, Bazinga, Above Realty, Only Scams, and Crypto Store. Awesome. So Crypto Store is already saying they bought the dip. So let's jump into this. Okay, so let's talk about super critical lesson to learn in crypto right now, because we're definitely seeing this, as a part of what's going on this week. So, of course, crypto markets have gotten absolutely decimated over the past several weeks. A lot of people are calling, are seeing things like reminiscent to some of the bear markets that have happened in the past. Okay. We talked yesterday about the possibility of a capitulation event and what that could mean for the markets going forward. We'll talk about more of that later in this video. But one of the huge factors about crypto going down as badly as it did over the past several days is definitely what's going on with the UST Luna disaster. We've been talking about that pretty extensively on the channel here. But there's a huge lesson to learn inside of that, which I want to stress even more, because it's basically about technical competence with blockchain. So the lesson is basically this. There's so many people who are getting into projects in crypto without having any idea how they work. Okay, so we see this all the time. People just kind of get dollar signs in their eyes and they start investing in projects. And it's not just about buying crypto, it's about also investing in technical skills. This happens a lot with developers where they see new technology come out and they're like, hey, I got to jump on this tech trend and do this thing, and they don't realize whether it has any real staying power or not. Okay, and so let's kind of break both of those things down. So the first thing is people jumping into crypto ecosystems or projects without understanding how they work. Part of that's the mechanism design, like a stable coin that's algorithmic. You don't know how it's going to work, and then it absolutely blows up. Part of that's because there's a black box behind it. And, well, it blew up. I didn't know how it worked in the first place. But don't forget, you're securing value on something that you don't completely understand. And so even outside of, the stable coins and the DeFi and the contracts, which I always try to stress that there's, hey, there's smart contract risk with all these, DeFi apps and the NFT apps and stuff like that. There's always risk with that stuff. But what I also want to stress is the underlying, base blockchains themselves. There's always risks of those things going down. Okay, there's always risk of those things having technical failures. Okay, so yesterday we saw definitely what's going on with the Terra stuff, that the Terra blockchain basically just stopped producing blocks for a while. And basically Terra got delisted from a bunch of cryptocurrency exchanges. The blocks have since resumed production, but the fate of the entire blockchain is kind of a question mark at this point. Now, I'm not saying this to harp on Terra. I've tried to be very careful with everybody who's been affected by this Terra situation. It's a huge disaster. I don't want that to happen to anybody. But what I try to really do is give you the technical knowledge on this channel to make good decisions. Okay, and you have to understand that when you're storing value on a blockchain, the underlying blockchain itself is really important. So one of the reasons that the Terra blockchain was stopped producing blocks, or basically stopped running for a certain amount of time, was to do a security patch to basically fix an issue with the Luna supply. Okay, and basically a blockchain that has a certain issuance schedule for the cryptocurrency that is connected to the blockchain itself is important for the blockchain security. That's like why it was stopped. Basically, the supply was getting so messed up to where the security of the blockchain itself is at risk. So you have to understand this. How do blockchains get their security in the first place? They have some sort of the blockchains are peer-to-peer network nodes that all talk to one another, right? That's what's underpinning all the smart contracts, everything. And at the base layer, you have everybody who's running those nodes with the computers, which on Bitcoin, it's miners. On Ethereum 1.0 right now, it's miners. When we went to Ethereum 2.0, there's validators, okay? And like there's financial incentives in play to make sure that people are running the chain properly and getting paid to make sure the blocks are correct that are going into the blockchain. And if something gets messed up with the, economics of how they are paid and what happens to the entire cryptocurrency supply, there's potential for somebody to do things like 51% attack a network, right? For a certain number of validators to go down because of how, the incentives change. And then like you're vulnerable to a blockchain that just like is not even reliable anymore. Like you don't know if your account balance is correct. You don't know. There's so many things that can potentially go wrong there. And so you have to understand that when you're talking about, securing funds on an underlying blockchain itself. Now, that's one of the reasons I am so focused on major technologies like Ethereum that have been around for a really long time, compared to other chains. And here's why, because they've been so stress tested, okay? They've gone through so many things. Ethereum went through a DAO hack, okay? We did fork the chain there, full disclosure. It's been through, a lot of crazy stuff, right? It's been out there so long that it could have broken, many, many times, like the COVID crash, all the crazy things that have happened, okay? And yeah, it's still been very strong. And part of that's because it has such a strong design to make it very secure. And that's going to even get better as we move into Ethereum 2.0 territory. We're burning ETH now, which actually does help with the security of the network. Okay. Well, I should say we have the infinite supply of ETH. Everybody says like, hey, that's such a problem, but the whole thing, it's not a problem. It's not like a fiat currency that can get printed willy-nilly. The whole idea is it's a feature, not a bug. Like Bitcoin has a fixed supply, but that actually can be a security issue over time when you're not producing new blocks in the Bitcoin network. So anyways, like the whole point is blockchain security at the underlying base layer is insanely important. It's insanely important. And you're seeing why right now. And one of the reasons that I'm so excited about layer 2s over the long term is that they can piggyback off of Ethereum security, which has, really stood the test of time. Okay, so, if you look at l2beat.com, talking about, projects that are, building layer 2 scaling solutions on top of the Ethereum chain. Now, they're like, these are not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, right? These need to be battle tested too over time. But one of the key features is that they can piggyback on top of Ethereum's security model. We're seeing, a good amount of adoption, especially across Optimism. I know it looks like it's going down. Sorry, let's just see. I know it looks like it's going down in terms of TVL, but that's if you compare it for USD. All right, I can't get this to totally come over. It looks like it's going down in terms of USD, but that's because the crypto market has tanked. If you switch it to ETH equivalent, you can see it's trending upward, right? So if you think about ETH value, Optimism's going up like crazy. So a lot of that's because of the Optimism airdrop. I've been talking about this for a week on the channel. Re-released a video yesterday talking about how to use Optimism. It's a rolling airdrop, right? So you can continue to, get Optimism rewards by using the network, okay? And so I do expect Optimism adoption to continue to grow. Now, full disclosure, there's risk for these layer 2s. They are new. You definitely don't want to be storing value on here that you cannot afford to lose. But I am bullish on the layer 2s long term, especially because they're piggybacking off Ethereum security model. And, some of these lessons have to be learned the hard way is a lot of people who are going in and storing value on some of these newer chains that have gone down or basically gone to zero. And, when you're in the throes of some crazy, like, frothy bull market, everybody laughs at you when you're storing value in cryptocurrencies that have, less upside potential, like, Bitcoin or Ethereum in the short term. But then at times like these, like you start to understand why, because, part of the thing about holding a cryptocurrency on a network that has stood the test of time is that it's a lot harder for that cryptocurrency to go to zero from a technical failure. Like, it's not just about the price going down because people don't care about it anymore. Like, a crypto can go to zero if the blockchain breaks, right? So that's something you have to understand. So, in terms of crypto, somebody said, do I think Coinbase will go bank run? I don't think so. I really don't, because it's such a valuable company. I'm sorry, I got distracted by a comment here. I really don't think so. It's such a valuable company. Yeah, I don't think so. So anyways, let's go back on this. So, going along with that. So sort of understand, like, chasing trends and, like, chasing hype on new stuff that has big downside potential also applies to, like, tech trends. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of people that would watch this outside the blockchain context and say, well, that's the entire blockchain space in the first place, just chasing a hypey tech trend. No, I don't think so. I mean, it's got hypey phases, but I do think the blockchain has an insane future potential. Of course, that goes without saying. But from learning technical skills, like, where you invest your time and attention to acquire skills is super important, because you can't really get that time back. And so, I get asked all the time, like, what programming language should I learn? I mean, people earlier, I've had questions in the live chat here that were like, hey, should I be focusing on the Terra ecosystem? And I was always kind of like, oh, I focus on, Ethereum and EVM compatible chains, for a reason. And this, you're kind of seeing why. Like, you could go invest a lot of time and energy into something that could just completely go away. Right now, there's a silver lining to that. If you went and, like, let's say here's your first programming language and you learned it, you got a lot of skills, you could learn something else a lot faster. I'm not saying that, like, that's the end of the world, but if you want sort of the most efficient path, like, that's one of the values that I try to help provide you with, is like steering you in that right direction, like, where, hey, this is the largest developer ecosystem, this is where a lot of the future potential is. And you're starting to see why. Like, you just don't want to go down a dead end if you don't have to. And I really try to help everybody, avoid that and go where there's real demand, real value, because there's an insane amount of demand for, people who understand solidity, understand EVM compatible chains. I was, and not all the EVM compatible chains are going to survive long term, I don't think. I think Ethereum is the best shot at, this massive network effect for the EVM compatible chains. I'm not saying everything's going to die off. A lot of stuff will just have smaller communities. Okay. But I got heavily criticized, earlier in the really frothy stage where everybody's like hyping up alt L1s and stuff, like calling me a maxi when I'm like, hey, I don't really buy, the whole, like, thing here. And, we're kind of starting to see what happened over the long term with some of that. So anyways, right now is a great time. I talked about this in the streams this week, but right now is a great time to double down those technical skills and build in the space, because there's so much new stuff that's going to come out. We're still seeing insane amounts of capital flow into the crypto space for the next wave of innovation. And, the trend, the excitement, the hype and everything tends to come in after those, new cycles of innovation come out. And, the seeds of that stuff's already being planted. This feels a lot like it did, in kind of like 2018. I don't mean the crypto prices. Like, I don't necessarily think that we're in the same, like, crazy winter scenario that we were back then. But when we were going through that, I remember like seeing all the new stuff like getting planted and like watching it come out and then watching the entire, you know, rocket ship take off again. And it feels like we're already, you know, on like the technological innovation inflection point starting to kind of tick up some more. Somebody says Luna having a hard time building trust again. Yeah, I mean, I get it. You know, again, I'm not trying to. I don't wish anybody, you know, ill will in this space, but it's really hard to recover from something like that. It's really hard. So, yeah, I mean, let's definitely check to see what's, you know, going on. I talked earlier a little bit about, you know, we're seeing some green on the charts today for crypto. Let's pull up our sophisticated chart here. Got a question in the chat here. Can I become a dev with zero coding experience? Absolutely. All right. It does take some work. But, you know, I taught myself coding from scratch, broke in the industry, you know, with zero experience. That was before I became a blockchain developer, full disclosure, right? I was a software developer before I got into blockchain, but I did start my coding career as a self-taught developer. You know, I didn't go to computer science. I didn't go to college for computer science. I didn't go to a coding boot camp. I got rejected from coding boot camp, actually, which basically led me with no choice but to teach myself and break into the industry. And I did that, you know, mostly through, you know, online learning resources, just like I do on this channel. That's why I'm such a big proponent of it. And then, you know, getting into blockchain is not that different from what I did. And so you know, the path is very similar. People get hung up with this all the time. They're like, blockchain is this unique thing that's like a lot harder than web development. And there is some truth to some of that, but like that does not mean that you can't learn it as your first thing. You see this from the developers all the time. They're like, you got to go learn something else before you go learn blockchain. And I used to think this, okay? I think somebody commented on my videos today, like, I got confused because I watched this old video where you said that. I was like, well, I did think that when I was first starting out, but what forced me to change my opinion was helping lots of people break in the blockchain industry and actually learn it. Like, I've helped thousands and thousands of people do this, and I've seen lots of stories of complete beginners go down that path and get hired, you know, some within a matter of months, okay? Go check out the videos on my YouTube homepage, go down to student success stories and like watch any of those videos, okay? I've got people who have done it in a matter of months. That's really fast, okay, just for the record. That's not necessarily everybody's expectation. Some, you know, within, you know, many more months after that. We got people who are fresh out of college, people who are in their 50s who have done it. Okay, it's like everything everywhere in between. It's one of the best career options in 2022, in my opinion. So anyways, let's check on the crypto markets. Because people were asking me about this. We definitely seen some green on the charts right now. Okay, so, you know, Bitcoin's back above $30,000. Let's just check our one more technical chart here. We've definitely broken down. We've seen some of the lowest wicks we've seen in a very long time. Okay, I'll even take that support line off there. You know, there's a lot of questions right now. We're facing an insane amount of headwind from the macro scene. All right. With rising interest rates, tightening monetary conditions, inflation's an issue. Okay, again, I don't pretend to be a macroeconomist, but, you know, if you ask anybody, it doesn't take a genius to see that things don't look good out there. And it doesn't take a genius to see that the stock market has also been, you know, you can look at any major stock index. I've been watching them all. You know, I've been watching been watching the S&P, been watching the Dow Jones, been watching, the Nasdaq 100, looking at basically what's going on with tech, because I think tech stocks and crypto are pretty tightly coupled right now, especially Bitcoin. And we're starting to see some green there. Okay. Now, I'd love to see how today closes out. This is encouraging in the short term. Looks like a little bit of a bottom here, but it could be a local bottom. You have to understand this. Like, we're dealing with something that's an order of magnitude bigger than just a temporary correction. Okay. What the flip that's happened in the economy, sort of the U-turn from where things were headed. Like, everybody was like, one of the reasons the stock market was doing what it was doing over the past several years, especially with stuff with growth stocks like tech, is basically betting on inflation, future potential, and growth, economic growth. And that's all changed. Like, that's all changed. So that's kind of why you're seeing this big reversal here. And so as that whole thing changes, and let's just say we're in a recession. I think we're in a recession right now. Like, we've already had 1 quarter of negative GDP growth. Like, if the stock market goes down this badly, and then you see all these, reports like that look just terrible, why do you think we'd have a positive quarter, after number 2? That's what a recession is. 2 quarters where you have negative GDP growth or the economy shrinks. Okay. Now, the other thing I want to watch for is, did inflation peak in March? We're kind of crossing our fingers that happened. So, if inflation peaked in March and we go ahead and find out that we currently are in a recession, which you just don't know for sure. Like, you can go through an entire recession and then you don't find out until, they can technically measure it. And by that time you might be on the way out of a recession or on the climb up. Okay. Like, that's not going to happen till the summer. Like, you're not going to know that till July. So we gotta wait at least like six weeks and change. Okay. So, but before we get too confident about what we're seeing in the crypto markets, we really need clarity on this stuff. So we could get to that point where finally we're in a recession, stuff starts to turn around, and then, we go through another 50 base point rate hike, and then the Fed says, like, all right, inflation peaked. We're going to chill. Because sometimes it happens. Sometimes they flip. All right. They come out and say, we're going to do this. And just the sheer, utterance of what they intend to do, the market corrects and prices it all in and makes it happen really fast. And with that being said, there's a lot of thought that because the market moves so fast, that information, that sort of that initial reaction is pricing in all the bad stuff before it happens. Okay. If that's the case, then so many metrics that we're looking at look like a capitulation. Okay. Look like oversold territory. I mean, you're talking about stuff like Shopify down like 80 something %. All right. So much wealth absolutely decimated. Okay. On major companies with insane cash flow. Okay. So, so many things are looking like a bottom wants to form in, equities for sure. Now, I don't know exactly what that means for crypto, but the whole point I'm trying to make here is I think we need to confirm a bottom in equities or show signs of strength before crypto can do the same. So, so many things over the past several days felt like a capitulation. We've been talking about that on this channel. We're wicking down to, let's see what our actual wick number was, like 25K basically, like 25,400. Like, it feels like a capitulation. Now, that being said, we've seen other capitulations happen in the past, okay, where we start to recover and then we fall off a cliff. So it's this is one of the craziest times ever to really be a part of the crypto roller coaster. So let me know what y'all think down in the comment section below. Somebody says they inspired to learn Solidity at age 58, first programming language. Awesome. That's great news. This is recession. Yeah, totally. I think we're in a recession already. All the signs point to it. It's just you can't technically measure it until after we've had 2 quarters. Is blockchain dying anytime soon? Not a chance. Not a chance for crypto Web3. The only counter argument that people are talking about is that Bitcoin has never really, gone through a massive financial crisis like, 2008. But I still don't think that's enough to kill Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin was basically created out of that. Like, that was the whole point in the first place. Good entry point for beginners getting into crypto now. So if the question is buying into crypto, I'm definitely not going to give financial advice on that one. If you're talking about like learning, right now is a great time to get in the crypto space and learn. I mean, if your intent is to buy, I mean, I think like, I mean, not financial advice. Like, I'm not telling you to buy crypto right now, but like, if crypto stays at this price for a while, or in these levels, or even if you end up buying today or yesterday, right, at $30,000, a major cryptocurrency like Bitcoin has a 2x upside. Like, so just based on price history alone, now is a better time to be entering in the crypto space than right here. You know what I mean? Just by sheer upside potential in price history, because right here you have no price history above the current price level. Right here you have a lot of history. You have basically about 9 months of price history above this level right here. No, more than that. Let's see. I was thinking the 40K level. Yeah, 30K level. You got like closer to 18 months. You got 17 months, 16 months of price history above that. More conservatively, round down to 15 months. Over a year. Between a year and a half. Do I think it will drop again? I think there's a chance that it'll drop again. We have to think about these markets in terms of probability. Nobody truly knows what's going to happen next. I don't try to time tops. I don't try to time bottoms. I mean, I realize that I'm talking about the potential for a bottom forming over the past several days. That could just be a local bottom. Again, we've seen some of these kind of, somewhat capitulatory, I don't know if that's a word, events happen in the past, but then, things try to get pushed up and then they don't quite make it, and it just keeps showing weakness, and, eventually things drag down even more. But yeah, well, another reason I feel like this looks more like capitulation is look at the volume spike, okay? So I know a lot of people say, hey, that's like volume for ants. Basically, like that's nothing compared to some of the capitulations in the past. Part of it on the Bitcoin chart, like I'm looking at, looking at Bitstamp. Let me just look at the entire volume across the entire. Look on CoinGecko here. Like we do see a volume spike here, which makes me think it's more of a capitulation event. All right. Yeah, some people say like that volume is still smaller than some of these, but part of that you have to compare to the volume prior to it. All right, because right here was already pretty bubbly. You had a lot of people trading Bitcoin, and frankly, people were just trading Bitcoin less. They're trading other stuff. And so like when you see this, like that's still a volume spike relative to where it was headed before. I mean, that's still the volume spikes similar to some of these more euphoric periods in the second half of the cycle. Solidity versus Rust, my view. Okay, so this is a very relevant time to talk about that. So, you know, I definitely think Solidity is my number one choice for a couple reasons. Number one is, like I said in the beginning of this video, like one of the important lessons to learn is where to invest your skills and time into something that has, you know, real potential, like has a lot of history behind it and has a strong future. So, you know, Solidity has that. Like Ethereum's been around for a long time. You can use those skills in other chains. It's the largest developer ecosystem. And another huge reason is because it's easier to learn for beginners. Like I've kind of watched this, okay? It's more of a high-level programming language. It looks a lot more like and reads a lot more like JavaScript and Python, you know, more beginner-friendly languages. Now, Rust, on the other hand, it's harder for beginners to learn. Not saying you can't do it. You can. If that's what you really want to do, you can do it. But also, with some of the newer stuff, like Solana, where people are using Rust, it's a newer technology, okay? And I'm just, like, part of the thing I'm trying to stress in this video is the inherent risk factors of newer technology, okay? So, I mean, you can go down that road if you want to, but I just want to stress the risks. The other thing is, like, that developer ecosystem is a lot smaller by comparison, okay? You know, if you get into a problem, you're trying to build an app, you don't know how to fix it, like, you may not be able to find a good resource to help you fix it. If you're in the Solidity track and you're in the Ethereum track and the EVM track, you run into a problem, there's lots of support on how to fix that problem. Which you definitely want to be, that's called network effect. You're in a network where there's a lot of stuff happening and you get the benefit of other people being in that same network. How do I personally feel about NFTs as assets? I'm all for NFTs as assets. I'm not giving financial advice to go buy a bunch of NFTs right now. I'm definitely all for them. I think there's a lot of future potential beyond just collectible pictures, okay? You know, I think we can do a lot more with NFTs. We're just scratching the surface. Real estate contracts, concert tickets, all this stuff. All right, everybody. That's all I got for today. As always, smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. That really helps these videos out so that more people learn about blockchain. And if you're as fast with this technology as I am, you want to get your hands dirty, how can you get started today? Well, you can go to my YouTube homepage. You can find my free courses there. They're like Udemy courses, but they're totally free. And if you like those and you want to take the next step, or hey, maybe you want to take a master shortcut entirely, I can become a blockchain master step-by-step start to finish over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. You don't have to be an expert to get started today. Help people with zero coding experience become real-world blockchain developers in a matter of months. So that's all I've got. And until next time, thanks for watching Dapp.